A whispered revelation from the late Queen Elizabeth II has exploded inside palace walls, turning this year's private Balmoral summit into the monarchy's most combustible family meeting in decades. A single envelope, entrusted to Princess Anne and addressed to the Princess of Wales, Catherine, has upended long-settled expectations about who should one day reign beside the throne. Behind those grey granite walls, courtiers heard words they never expected. Elizabeth saw Catherine not merely as consort-in-waiting, but as a full queen, a sovereign partner, on par with Elizabeth I herself. And nothing rattled Queen Camilla more. For the modern monarchy, optics are everything. Tiny gestures travel faster than state carriages, and even the faintest whiff of rivalry can dominate a news cycle. Yet no one inside or outside the palace anticipated an afterlife endorsement powerful enough to redraw the succession's emotional map. If the late Queen's wish gains traction, could Britain soon greet a joint reign, William and Catherine, King and Queen in equal measure? Hours after the envelope was opened, Balmoral's cedar-paneled drawing room became a war room. Prince William, already juggling a shrinking roster of working royals and a costly repair bill for Buckingham Palace, outlined fiscal reforms, fewer family stipends, more streamlined duties, and a focus on the younger generation. Camilla listened in stony silence. The reforms, she realized, might sideline several of her own relatives. Then came Anne's soft proclamation: "Mother always believed Catherine would carry the crown's soul forward." A hush fell, thick as Highland mist. Camilla's reaction, say eyewitnesses, was equal parts disbelief and dismay. After decades spent moving from public adversary to accepted consort, she had built a vision of her future that fit comfortably within the traditional limits of queen consort. Important, yes, but never sovereign. Now, with one posthumous wish, that future looked suddenly smaller. A queen's hidden dream. Close friends recount that Elizabeth's admiration for Catherine was neither sudden nor sentimental. The late monarch watched the then Duchess of Cambridge navigate charity visits, military ceremonies, even her own medical battles, without a single awkward headline. Over tea at Windsor, she is said to have told Anne, "That girl's composure could light 1,000 years of Windsor rule." It was praise and tucked away, never imagining she would serve as messenger after her mother's passing. That high regard translated into more than polite compliments. In 2019, Elizabeth appointed Catherine Dame Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, an honor rarely bestowed on someone so young, and a clue, perhaps, to the larger role the Queen envisioned. Catherine's pandemic era, Hold Still photo project, which chronicled life in lockdown, mirrored Elizabeth's own childhood love of photography. The Queen saw an heirloom of perspective, a lens that could capture Britain's next chapter. Could that shared creative spark now drive a constitutional conversation no one in Whitehall wants to touch? The envelope has forced the question into daylight. Behind Balmoral's closed doors. The summit, by tradition, offers a pause in the royal schedule, a chance for family members to swap uniforms for tweed and debate policy over venison stew. This year's agenda looked routine: financial tightening, mental health initiatives, next year's trooping roster, until Anne produced the handwritten note, sealed with the late Queen's personal cipher. One royal aide describes Camilla's shock as visible, immediate, and raw. Another claims she whispered, "How could she consign me to footnotes after all this time?" Palace spokespeople officially decline comment, yet off-record murmurs suggest Camilla fears her own role could shrink should Catherine be elevated beyond consort status. With Prince William proposing a trimmed-down working family, no minor titles, no distant cousins, Camilla's concern for her Parker Bowles relatives grows sharper. William, caught between filial duty and modernizing zeal, now faces the burden of fulfilling his grandmother's ambition while keeping peace with his father's wife. Catherine, for her part, responded in what eyewitnesses call a characteristic hush, thanking Anne, pocketing the note, and returning to the table as though absorbing the weight of an empire was simply another line item. The people's verdict. Outside the Granite Estate, the British public responded with unexpected unity. Polling within 24 hours found 71% of respondents comfortable with Catherine as full queen. Social media timelines filled with side-by-side photos, Elizabeth in wartime khaki, Catherine in field hospital scrubs. "Feels right," read one viral comment. A queen who lived through COVID for a country still living with it. Midway through those trending threads came a quieter plea. Can royalty modernize without cannibalizing itself? It's a question William's finance proposal hopes to address. He argues fewer funded royals equal less tabloid fodder, more mission-driven work, and a stronger case for the monarchy's relevance. Camila counters, privately, that public affection depends on a tapestry of personalities, not a single gilded thread. If austerity trims that tapestry too sharply, will the crown unravel? Somewhere between those arguments stands Catherine herself, newly recovered from health struggles and more popular than any royal bar one, the grandmother, who just rewrote her destiny from beyond the grave. A glimpse of tomorrow. Insiders hint that lawyers have already begun discreet consultations. No constitutional amendment is needed for a reigning king to elevate his consort's status. Precedent exists in joint reigns from medieval Europe. Yet modern British tradition leans conservative. Any formal change would require palace finesse, political tact, and a careful rollout to Commonwealth realms, whose governors-general prefer clarity over spectacle. Still, sources whisper that William is open to honoring his grandmother's wish, if it can be achieved without public rancor. Catherine, meanwhile, has quietly expanded her schedule. A new military patronage here, a solo speech at the COP30 climate summit there. Observers note she now signs correspondence simply Catherine, dropping the Catherine, Princess of Wales flourish except on official letterhead. A subtle nod, perhaps, to a broader stage ahead. Context capsule. British queens consort have wielded soft power. Think Alexandra's fashion sway or Mary's wartime morale. But only once in the last 5 centuries did a woman co-rule, Queen Mary II beside William III. England's earlier sovereign queens, from Mary Tudor to Elizabeth I, ruled alone. Were Catherine to join William as equal monarch, she would fuse those two traditions, consort turned co-sovereign, a first in the modern era. Quote Gem. Her Majesty loved Camilla, respected her loyalty, but Catherine, she believed, could steady the nation's heartbeat, says a retired lady-in-waiting, recalling late-night fireside chats at Windsor. In Catherine she heard the echo of her own vow, never explain, never complain, simply endure and serve. What happens next? Parliamentary aides expect private briefings within weeks. Constitutional scholars are already drafting opinion pieces. Commonwealth capitals, from Ottawa to Canberra, will study the fine print of any elevation. Camilla's allies hint she might champion cultural patronages to safeguard her public relevance. One courtier suggests the king could grant her the newly revived title of Queen Mother-in-law, pure rumor, yet telling of the scramble underway. Will this delicate dance end in harmony, or history-making rupture? As autumn engagements loom, every side glance between Catherine and Camilla will feed a hungry press corps. And William's austerity plan, once the summit's headline, now looks like a footnote beside his wife's potential coronation redux. The Highland night closed over Balmoral, but inside, lights burned long past midnight. A monarch's final wish, penned in steady cursive, has become the spark for a constitutional rethink and a family reckoning. Whether those flames illuminate a modernized throne or scorch old alliances depends on choices still to be made. One truth, however, feels unshakable. Queen Elizabeth II is guiding her house even from the silence beyond, and Britain is once again spellbound by a story only royalty could write.